idea of
recording in
there's
progress.
midbar in Voidus Hashem, and there is the not just midbar in Avodas Hashem, which is the idea of he explained the level of midbar is that it's layoshav Adam Sham, it's higher than the level of Adam, and that level that's higher than the level of Adam, just like Lamailo, there's a level that's higher than the Koiches Primim. So too, there's a level of midbar that he has he reveals the godly spark. That he's mevarer the berurim, the level of iskafia. That's the level of shtus, the kedusha, the avoid of kabbalas oil, the nasa before nishba, etc., etc. And we start explaining that there is another level of oilam in hamidbar that's higher than the level of midbar, higher than the level of the midbar that was in Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's the second pasuk, Misrapekes al doida. That's the level of Tchias HaMesim, where that even the Tchias HaMesim level is still a level of midbar, because he's enlivening and extracting the godly spark, which is the life in the physical, which is the thing that is dead. On the other hand, there is still the level of Iluya Min HaMidbar, that the Medrash says that Mizos Oilam in HaMidbar means its elevation is not just in the Midbar, but higher than Midbar. In other words, higher even than the level of Loy Adam. Even though Loy Adam is a level of Maki, if it's beyond the Koiches Pnimim and Avoida and so on, there's a level higher than that, a level that's higher than Loy Adam, higher than Midbar, Iluya Min HaMidbar. So that's what he's going to explain right now on the bottom of page Yud Aleph, last paragraph, 3 lines in the bottom. And the idea of higher than Adam. Higher than Loy Adam, higher than the Midbar in the fulfillment of mitzvahs. In the Inyan Midbar, of the idea of Midbar is like it says, I have remembered the kindness of your youth, Goimer lechtech acharai b'midbar, that you were following me in the wilderness, the Eretz Loy Zerua, top of page Yud Beis, in a land. In the simple meaning, Loy Zerua means a land that was not planted. It was not sown. It was an area of not habitable. It didn't have anything growing in it, etc., etc. But on a deeper explanation is, so he says, Shapirish Bezed, the explanation in Loy Zerua is that the Loy is planted, the Loy is sown. Shazriya Hibabkim Bechinas Loy. The planting is in the fulfillment of the things that are not, in the negative. The Hainu Shmiras Mitzvahs Loisa, and the fulfillment of the mitzvahs that are negative commandments. Bechinas Sur Mera, an idea of turning away from bad. That through the level of turning away from bad, similar to what we spoke about before, the level of iskafia, so through that we draw down from the level that no man sat over there, because just like it's Loy Zerua, so it's the higher than Adam, that is higher than the level of the positive commandments, Shehem Bechinas Adam, as we know that mitzvahs asa is the level of Adam, Ramachi Van the Malcha, the 248 limbs of the king. Just like a person is made up of 248 limbs down here, so to the 248 limbs above, the level of Adam above, that's the 248 mitzvahs asa. Loy Adam, who has to do with the mitzvahs Loy Sase, that's Loy Zeruam, that the Loy is planted, that's a level of Midbar Shaloy Yoshev Adam Sham. But in mitzvahs, there is also the level that's beyond the level of the wilderness, which we're trying to figure out. What's the Iluya Minhad Midbar that goes up higher in the Midbar? That's the idea that the concept of mitzvahs is the way we say that he sanctified us in his mitzvahs and he commanded us that through the mitzvahs becomes tzavsa. meaning togetherness. The mitzvah Lashon Tzafsa. The Chibur Makadosh Baruch Hu, mitzvah in the word togetherness and joining with Hashem. Meaning, what is this joining? What is the togetherness that we're talking about? Not with the level of Adam, not with the level of Atzilus. When we're talking about the joining and togetherness, we're talking about Hashem's very essence. I like the words of the Rebbe Rashab. Is well-known sichah inyan ha-mitzvah. The idea of mitzvahs is ayid un atzmus umer is nitokin zach. A Jew and Hashem's essence, and there's nothing else beside them. Though the revelation of Atzmus will be only when Mashiach comes. So what does it have to do with our avodah? We're saying that right away at the beginning, what is in our avodah, the level that's higher than midbar, higher than lo yadamu. It's known the example of this in the Rebbe Marash. All matters that will become revealed when Mashiach comes are present now. Rather, they're like in a box. They're sealed in a box. But it's in a way that the person is already given the keys. Like the matter is explained in many places. So the person is still in possession of this great treasure, even though he hasn't opened it yet. And the opening of the treasure will come when Mashiach comes. Still in all, it's still considered in his possession. So therefore, this avodah is shaykh now as well. So he says in Nois Vav, line 21, this level that we just now introduced, the level of the mitzvah's connection with Atzmos, which is higher even than the highest level of the midbar, shaykh is l'chag hashvuos. Zman Matan Torah is connected to the Yom Tov of Shavuos, the time of the giving of the Torah. The idea behind this is, as it's known, Matan Torah tzarich li'is ha'avodah d'nasa v'nishma. Matan Torah has to be the avodah of we will do and then we will understand. Not only that, but you have to preface. It's not just necessary to have both, but you have to preface the doing to the understanding. That idea is that is nullifying ourselves, sublimating ourselves to the master of the will. Throughout the year, when it isn't the time of Matan Torah, when we're not saying Nasa before Nishma, that's when we're nullifying ourselves to the will of Hashem. Because we look in Torah, we look in Shulchan Aruch, we know Hashem wants us to do a particular thing, so we say, we will do it. So the bittul is to that will that Hashem expressed. But by Matan Torah has to be the bittul to the master of the will, to where the will came from, because that's the idea of saying Nasa before Nishma. If we say we will do something before we even know what we're supposed to do, so we're not sublimating ourselves to the will, we're not nullifying ourselves to the will, we don't even know what the will is. We are actually nullifying ourselves to the one who is the master of the will, who's the source of the will. So he says on top of the last page, according to what's explained in many places, that the rotzen versus the master of the will versus the master of the will is arich amping, the lower level in Kesser, versus atik yom in the inner level of Kesser. The rotzen of bechinas arich amping, the will is the level of arich amping. Ubal rotzen, and the master of the will is bechinas atik, just like atik is higher than in the master of arich. Nimsa comes out, Shabitl Matan Torah Labalarot, the nullification of Matan Torah to the master of the will. Kosher and Bechinas Atik is connected with the level of Atik. Through the preparation of prefacing and saying Nasa before Nishma, and prior to that, we begin with what we do on what happened on Rish Chodesh Sivan. On Rish Chodesh Sivan, the Yidden encamped, what today's date, facing the mountain. And afterwards, the mountain was fenced off, was given a boundary, and it was supposed to be, and it was sanctified and made sure that no one should approach it. During the 3 days of boundary and limitation. When a Yid affects in his avodah, everything is dependent upon him. Those things that have to do with the chain order of descent. So then he has prepared and he has laid the groundwork so that they should give him even things that are beyond what he is able to reach, beyond Seder Ishtalshlus. Afterwards, we draw this down from the Yom Tov Shavuos for the entire year. Should be a year of Torah. If it's a year of Torah, it will be a year of light, which is the first in the series of brachos that go into Aleph Beis, because Torah is oir. So if you have Torah, you have light. And so to all the other brachos that are hinted in the rest of the letters of the Aleph Beis that we usually say in Tishrei time. Va'adlo is tough in Torah until the letter tough, which is the idea of Torah. Is tough. And so too, not just Torah, which is hinted in tough, but also other things that are hinted in the letter tough. Tefillah is the word tough. So you need to precede your Torah with the service of davening. And the avodah of tshuva is also hinted in the tough. And through having all these different avodas, through this, all the brachas come down in the physical, material world. Like it says, we had this in last week's parashah. If you will go in my chukim, and Rashi says it talks about Torah. I'll give you your rains in its time. And I will give you peace in the land. Until the fulfillment of the promise, I will fill the earth with the knowledge of Hashem, like the waters cover the sea.